Hi everyone. Today we're going to make delicious scones and I have everything ready here. We have the flour, 3 cups of flour and one teaspoonful of salt in the bowl, and I have already mixed that. Now I'm going to add a half a cup of butter. I have it here in my hand and I'm going to put that in the bowl. Take the fork out and just mix that with my fingertips. And it doesn't matter if the butter is rock hard, if you can get it sliced with a warm knife, you can grate your butter right into your bowl, and that works pretty well too. I just usually have some butter, and I like to do with my fingertips and get some air into it. This is just my little thing that I like to do, so that your dough has got as much air in it as possible. So I tend to use my fingertips rather than the palms of my hands. Okay, now that looks good. Looks nice. And we're going to put in 1/3 of a cup of sugar. Just use my fork. And 5 teaspoonfuls of baking powder. So here we go. And that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 level teaspoonfuls of baking powder. Probably seems like a lot, but it isn't really. It's just the perfect amount. So we have our flour, salt, butter, sugar, and baking powder. Now we're going to put our raisins in, and I have a half cup of Thompson raisins. And I just separate them. Sometimes you get some that are stuck together, but we don't want big clumps of raisins in there, so you can just use your fingertips again and separate them out. And now we've done that, we're going to add 2 eggs and 1 cup of buttermilk. Straight in she goes. And then we need a nice big fork, and we just mix that all around till it comes together. Now some days you might find you need more liquid, and other days you might find you need more flour. It's just one of those things, and the more you do it, the better you become. It just becomes second nature, and you can just figure out what you need. So this looks pretty good today. So I just take my hand and get it in the bowl and mix the dough till it forms a ball. So here we go. I'm just going to do a little shake of flour in there, and then also helps to get it all off your fingers. And I've already preheated the oven to 425. Now I happen to have a gas stove. Some people might find that a bit hot with an electric oven, so maybe 400 if you've got electric. I tend to go with 425, and I don't change that very much. Now once we put it out onto the board, you see how it's all come together? And it doesn't really need a lot of kneading. I always say, don't play with the dough. It just makes it tough. And then I like to put a nice sprinkle of flour. And what we're going to do today, excuse me while I get my knife, and this makes it really easy to do. We're going to cut it into 2 pieces, roughly the same size. And we're just going to shape that into a ball. and flatten it out. And the same again with this one. And now I'm going to put on my baking tray. So we didn't even need the rolling pin for this. If I have time, I'd like to do another batch and cut those ones out. Just to show you the difference. But with this, so cut right down the center. And then cut each piece into 3. And then we go again. And you don't have to separate them, but it's kind of nice if you just cut all the way to the bottom, just to give them some definition, so that when they're baked, you'll see how easily they come apart. All right. So there we have it. That didn't take too long. And we're going to pop those in the oven for a total of 20 minutes. Now after 10, I usually put the timer on for 10 minutes. And then once it goes off, I rotate the tray so they're baked evenly on all sides. So what I'm going to do is pop these in the oven, and then we'll come back when they're done and you'll see what they look like. So now we're going to put these in the oven, and we'll put about halfway, not on the very top but not on the bottom, so just slightly above the middle. We'll give that 10 minutes, and then we'll rotate them and give them another 10 minutes, and we'll be back and you'll see how nicely they look. Okay, so the raisin scones are in the oven and they're halfway done, and while they're just finishing off, we're just going to do some garlic and cheese scones. And I have the flour and the salt already mixed together, and 5 teaspoonfuls of baking powder in the bowl, and I'll mix that in. For the garlic and cheese, we omit the sugar. We don't need the sugar. So now we're going to add the butter. Same as last time, just blend it in with your fingertips till it resembles fine breadcrumbs. And that just takes a minute. Scones are one of those universal things that everybody likes, and you can make many variations of them. You can make them chocolate chip, cranberry orange, cheese and garlic, raisin, blueberry. You can even make them with fresh strawberries. There's just no end to the variety. If you just make them plain, come June, they make the perfect accompaniment to strawberry shortcake with fresh cream and sliced strawberries. Absolutely delicious. So I'm using my fingertips again just to get that airy texture. That's just something I like to do. I have no control what everybody else does, but that's my thing. All right, so we've got the flour, salt, baking powder, and butter. And now we're going to add a half cup of cheese. And this is extra strong. So you just mix that in again with your hands. And now we're going to put make a well in the center and put your 2 eggs in. And now your cup of buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk, you can take a cup of regular milk and add maybe 2 tablespoonfuls of vinegar or lemon juice, and that will make it nice and thick and textured like buttermilk. That's what I do if I run out of buttermilk. I try not to because I like to make scones a lot. So I usually have some buttermilk in. But there's the odd time when I don't. So again, we're just using our hand after putting the buttermilk in and the eggs and binding this together. And actually, I think I might just need another little drop of buttermilk here. It's a little, so just a small amount. Just to bring it together and it's not too dry. So now we're going to put this on the table. And if we time this just right, these should be ready to go in the oven when the raisin ones are ready. So this time, just a little bit of kneading, but not too much. And try to get your surface nice and flat so that your biscuits, or your scones, how would I call them biscuits, have a nice flat top. Just a little bit of flour. And now we're going to roll them this time. So obviously this takes a little more work. And you should get between 10 and 12. The beauty of not cutting them is you always get 12. So, see how that thickness? You don't want them too thin. You're not aiming to get any more than 10 to 12. So, I'm not sure how. That about half an inch thick. So now we've got 6, 7, 8. And we'll take this last piece of dough and just a little bit of kneading. I just like to get it nice and smooth. And then I usually just keep it in a long, elongated, just a gentle roll. And there we go, we've got 9, 10. So it looks like we might get 11. So this is good. Perfect. There we go. And usually I just throw this a little bit on the tray. That's the tester. So there we go. That's cheese, and we're going to put garlic butter on them, and that will give them the garlic and cheese flavour that everybody likes. And we'll get these into the oven in a couple of minutes when the other ones come out. Okay, so now these ones that we put in, the raisin ones, these are ready. And as you can see, they're nicely puffed up. They're just a sight to behold. There's nothing better than a fresh baked scone, just right out of the oven with a nice cup of tea and some nice homemade jam. Now we're going to put in the cheese scones, and we'll come back when these are ready, and you can see them. All at the same time. Now we're ready to take out our cheese scones, and as you can see, they're nicely risen and fluffy. And for the cheese scones, we're going to take just a little paintbrush is what I use, but I don't use it for paint, just for garlic butter. And I brush the garlic butter on the hot scones. The garlic and cheese ones, they're really nice. I think the cheese makes them kind of flaky. It's got a really nice texture to them, and they're nicely risen. And so that's the garlic and cheese ones, and for the raisin ones, I sometimes like to put some powdered sugar on. Just gives them a little more of a professional look. But you don't have to do that. That's absolutely optional. Now, I'll just break open one of these just to let you see how fluffy they are inside, and just got a nice crust on the outside. And some homemade jam or butter on a hot scone. Perfect. I hope you enjoy making them as much as I enjoyed showing you how to do them. And just as one last thing, the recipe for the scones is in St. Thomas and St. Paul's recipe book on page 82. Have fun.